everybody. This is Miss Nicole with Science Bytes at Bloomfield Public Library. And I thought for our March edition, we could pay tribute to Dr. Seuss for his birthday, which was on March 2nd. And I could show you how to make some classic OOBLECK. And some of you may be familiar with his book, Bartholomew and the OOBLECK. It won a Caldecott Honor Award in 1950. And it's a really terrific story, so I do recommend it if you haven't read it yet. And in this story, there is a king who gets very tired of seeing the same weather every single season. Rain in the spring, sun in the summer, snow in the winter. So he goes to his court magicians and asks them to make something new come down from the sky. And sure enough, the next day, some little green blobs of things start falling from the sky, and they start out the size of grapes, and they get to be big blobs the size of watermelons, and everybody gets stuck together and nobody can do anything until the king apologizes for his request and has everything go back to normal. So we are going to make this sort of sticky, weird, oozy OOBLECK today. But before we get started with our OOBLECK, I wanted to quick talk about the properties of liquids and solids, because our OOBLECK today is actually a combination of both. It's a weird, strange product called a non-Newtonian liquid. But first, let's talk about liquids and solids. Now, a liquid might be something like water. Something that all of us have. I have a bottle of water here. And for a solid, I'm going to use as an example my little Pokemon figure of Sudowoodo. And those of you who come to my Pokemon club know that Sudowoodo is my favorite. So here we have a liquid and we have a solid. And according to Sir Isaac Newton, one of our favorite scientists, a liquid is always flexible. And that means it will change shape to fit whatever you put it into. A solid is always inflexible. It does not want to change shape. So as an example, I have a glass here, and as we can see, different shape than my water bottle, and if I pour the water from the water bottle into the glass, we can see that the water takes on the shape of the glass. It has gone from our skinny water bottle to the shape of our glass. It changed shape, it was flexible, it changed shape to fit into the glass. Now if I do the same thing with my solid, which is my Pokemon figure Sudowoodo, and I have the same sort of glass here, if I put Sudowoodo into my glass, he does not change shape. He stays the same way he always was. That is a solid. Now our OOBLECK is going to be what they call a non-Newtonian liquid. And that means it acts as both a liquid and a solid. A good example of a non-Newtonian liquid would be quicksand, where you can actually sink slowly into the quicksand, but at the same time, if you were to lay flat across the surface, it might act like a solid. So our new non-Newtonian liquid, our OOBLECK, is going to act like a liquid. We can sink our hands into it. We can run it through our fingers. But if we punch it, it's going to be as solid as the surface of a table. To make OOBLECK, we only need a few simple supplies. The main ingredients are water and cornstarch, and some food coloring if you want it to be a fun green color like Dr. Seuss's OOBLECK. I'll give you our full list of materials. So you will need some sort of bowl. Make sure that it's got some good depth to it, but you also want it wide enough so that you have a chance to punch it. So you don't want anything too narrow. You want to make sure that your fist is going to be able to go into the center of it so you can test how your liquid is also going to work like a solid. So a nice good sized bowl, not too big. You don't want a massive size bowl. This is sort of like a giant soup bowl. That's a pretty good size. You're going to need a couple of measuring cups. If you have just a 1 cup measuring cup and a 1/2 cup measuring cup, that'll cover you. So just those two sizes. You might want a few spoons. Truthfully, when it gets to the mixing phase, it is so much easier to just mix with your hands, but you might start off with some spoons, definitely with the measuring part anyways. You may also want an extra glass. This is optional if you wanted to use food coloring. And I've learned this from experience. If you're going to color something like a slime or some sort of concoction, it's much easier to mix the color if you add the food coloring to the water or the liquid first. and then add the liquid to the rest of your ingredients. So in order to make our green oobleck, I'm going to color the water green and then pour that water into our cornstarch. And that leads me to the very last ingredient, is the cornstarch. Doesn't matter what brand you use. I like this one because it has a lid that screws on the top. I don't like fussing with little cardboard tops that you have to pull and separate. So I like this one because of the cover. But there are other ones that have a cover like this too. So any cornstarch is going to work. If you've worked with cornstarch before, you will know that it's messy. It cleans easily enough, but it gets everywhere. So definitely try and put some sort of tablecloth down. Or if not, at least wear something you don't mind getting very dusty mucky, because it sort of puffs in clouds and gets everywhere. But those are our main ingredients. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to put this all together. And this is a very simple recipe. It does take a little trial and error in terms of quantities. So very simply, what we are going to do is put 1 cup of water in our glass, add the green food coloring, and then we are going to measure out 1.5 cups of cornstarch to start. And we're going to put that in the bowl and then add our liquid to it. Now, I did find in my experimenting beforehand that I ended up adding closer to 2 cups of cornstarch, but it's always easier to add than to take away. So we're going to start with 1.5 cups, and then if we find out that it feels too much like a liquid, we're going to add about 1/2 cup more cornstarch. So first, 1.5 cups of cornstarch to 1 cup of water. Let's get started. You will find that as you start to stir it, you want to go slowly. It's going to be very thick and very goopy. So you don't want it flinging all over the place. Do it nice and slow. Just like this. Almost like you're pushing your spoon through quicksand or cement. Just go really slow. I think we're almost there. I think we need to add a little more cornstarch. One way to test is to tap your spoon on the surface. If it's acting more like a liquid, you need to add a little more cornstarch. So I'm going to start with maybe a 1/4 cup, like half of my 1/2 cup, and we'll see how well that does for us. Now see, at this point, I might have to just get my hands in there. It's feeling really thick. And I'm gonna turn it around and gently pick it up and make sure that all that dry cornstarch is getting incorporated into the liquid. And I think we've got it. It's a little crumbly, but I've pretty much got it. Now this is where you get to see how this is a non-Newtonian liquid. So if we were to put our hands right on the surface, our fingers could sink right in. If If we pull it out, it's also kind of acting like a goopy liquid. It's dripping, right? But if I were to punch the surface of this, it is going to act as solid as this table. I'm punching pretty hard, and you see only a ripple on the surface. But again, my hand will sink straight in. Now you can also pull up a piece of it, and initially you can even try and roll it into a ball really quickly, like a snowball. And it'll temporarily act like a solid in your hand, and then the minute you stop, it becomes a liquid again. That is the magic of the non-Newtonian liquid. Now again, this is a little messy, so make sure that you get that ratio right. And again, to test it, don't try punching your fist on it right away. If you're not sure if you've got the right ratio, take that spoon, I'll get a fresh spoon here, and tap the surface. And if it doesn't sink in, you know you've pretty much got it. Now you guys can have fun playing with this one because it has a very unique feel to it. It's goopy and droopy and drippy and solid all at the same time. So that is Dr. Seuss's OOBLECK. And you can see again, you can see how it's sloshing. But the minute I stop moving it and punch it, it acts like a solid. And you can very slowly, with some effort, dip in a spoon, and the minute you get out a chunk, it acts like a weird goopy liquid. And one final word to you, once you're done playing with your OOBLECK, this is probably not something you want to throw down the kitchen sink drain. Just like when you're playing with slime, you don't want to pour that down any drains because it could goop up your drains. So what I did is I had made 2 batches of OOBLECK. So I actually just poured my OOBLECK and scraped my OOBLECK into a giant gallon-sized bag. And now I'm going to throw that into the trash. So that's what you should always do with your slime projects, and it's what you should definitely do with your OOBLECK. So I hope you guys had fun with that one today. I love it. I love it because it's really simple. There are only a couple of ingredients, and it just feels so cool. And if you want any more information on non-Newtonian liquids, I did do a previous Science Explorers Club program on non-Newtonian liquids and OOBLECK, and I have some cool links in there to some articles. So you just go to our bplct.org website, and on the children's page, look for the Science Explorers Club blog, and all that information will be there for you. So until next time, my friends, have a lovely March, and I will see you next month in April. Bye, everybody.